Hey guys, and welcome to the Dota 2 how-to guide for playing Batrider. Now, this is actually going to be a lot of fun, since this guy is easily one of the best heroes in Dota in my opinion, but anyway, this is just a quick guide to provide an overview of skills, items, and general tips on how to play the hero. So, Batrider is a great solo hard lane or mid hero. I mostly play him hard lane, but yeah. He excels a lot early and mid game with great lane presence and survivability, along with his insane gank potential and nuke damage and utility for team. He starts out with 22 strength, 15 agility, and 24 int, and gains 2.4, 1.5, and 2.5 per level respectively. This gives him both a solid amount of health and mana as he progresses through the game, which allows you to do your job perfectly. And this hero right now is one of the biggest banned heroes in pro level games. As of January 1st, 2013, he is actually the most banned hero in pro games. Ability wise, his Q is Sticky Napalm. This is a ground targeted AoE that applies a debuff that stacks up to 10 times on both creep and enemy heroes. With a range of 700 and a radius of 375, this spell can actually be cast from a pretty safe distance and can really mess up the early game for an enemy carry. This is because the spell slows move speed by 3 to 9% per stack and slows turn rate by 70%, which this makes running from Batrider really hard, but also means moving around from creep to try and last hit, as you need to turn slightly and everything. You've got a good chance of missing those last hits. The ability also increases the damage the unit will take from Batrider by 10 to 25 per stack, and the debuff lasts 10 seconds. It only costs 20 mana and has a 3-second cooldown, meaning that building up stacks early game is very easy and makes harass very hard hitting. Bonus damage is dealt as a separate instance of damage, which is worth noting as well, because this means that damage from his W and auto attacks while the enemy has the debuff will count as additional attacks. So if you hit with a W and an auto attack, that's not 2 attacks, it counts as 4, which means he can burn through shields like TA's refraction and that very quickly. Moving on, his W is Flame Break. This is a ground targeted AoE again that does a large amount of damage and knocks back enemies. This ability is actually one that a lot of people struggle to get right, as the projectile travels fairly slowly once you've cast it, and people underestimate how far they'll need to throw it to get it ahead of the target, and so they usually end up knocking people further away because they threw it too close, and so it hits behind them by the time it hits. It has a cast range of 1500 and a radius of 375, meaning that you can actually throw it ridiculously far. The ability deals 75 to 300 damage and will stun for half a second, meaning that you can use this to force people out of invis like TA or Sand King's abilities, as it'll knock them around and stun. This makes it a hugely useful spell for finishing off heroes that are trying to hide, like if they're on low health and quickly pop into a sandstorm, you can finish them off very easily. It's got a cooldown of 11 seconds and a mana cost of 80 to 140, which means it's a fairly mana intensive spell for early game, but it's got a great high damage nuke for ganking, and there is the one downside of it is magic damage, which means later on it will be completely negated by a BKB. His E is Firefly. Firefly is a spell that's really beautiful both for engaging and escaping. It converts Batrider into a flying unit, such as a flying courier and everything, which means he can move over any terrain. You can go straight over hills, which means you don't have to walk around to the little stairwells in River, you can just fly up the sides, and that means you can escape from almost anything in bad situations, provided that spell's off cooldown. The ability also leaves a trail of fire on the ground behind Batrider, which lasts for the duration of the ability and will deal damage every second to any enemy stood in it. It will also destroy trees, which is something else worth noting, because you can just fly straight over a forest and a chase in that. You can clear a quick path for allies and everything because it just burns straight through trees. The damage ranges from 20 to 80 per second, and the trail has a radius of 200, which means it's a fairly wide radius, and while 80 damage a second is actually quite substantial if someone's trying to chase you, it stops them chasing. It lasts 18 seconds, which means you are a flying unit for a long time, and it's got a cooldown of 40 seconds, which means half the cooldown essentially you are still flying. The mana cost is 100, which means it's not that mana intensive, especially as you get sort of past level 10. and the spell's great throughout the entire game as it's a big amount of teamfight damage because you can cause everyone to be taking an extra 80 damage a second. It's a great engage ability and it's a great utility for your team, though again, as it is magic damage, it will be negated by BKB. Batrider's ult is Flaming Lasso, or Lasso, depending on, you know, how you pronounce that word, which is, it's really like the main part of this guy. It's what makes him so strong and such a popular ban. This ability is a small 175 range cast that is targeted on a hero, but it will let Batrider lasso an enemy unit to him, meaning he will drag them wherever he goes for 3 to 4 seconds depending on rank, and it's got a low cooldown of 90 to 50 seconds and has a mana cost of 150. The reason why it's so strong is because you have Firefly, you can drag enemy units over impassable terrain, so you can grab someone off of a hill, quickly pull them into a place totally where they do not want to be, where your team can focus them down and kill them before anyone from the other team can actually get there. This means that you can quickly grab a carry, pull them off to their death, and then by the time the enemy team actually gets there to try and support them, they're gone. Or you can grab a strong team damage person and drag them off to their death, meaning that you can essentially mess up enemy team fights. Now, the lasso, however, will break if Batrider blinks or teleports. However, Force Staff is actually a push, which means you can Force Staff yourself to go a lot further, a lot faster. This ability can't be blocked by BKB, which means you can grab someone who's BKBing and pull them off, though as it's a targeted ability, it will be blocked by Lincolns. Item-wise, starting items, I would go for a Tango, Ring of Protection, Salve, Gauntlets of Strength, and a Clarity, and then work towards, like, a lot of people get Power Treads, I hate that, work towards Tranquil Boots. They are so much more useful on Batrider. The regen and a lot more move speed, well, your lasso, you can pull them a lot further out of position. You want to then go for an Urn, as it provides both mana regen, some strength, and health regen on kills, which as a ganker you should be getting a fair few kills, so you should be building up stacks in it. Other item wise, both a Blink Dagger and a Force Staff are really kind of core on Batrider, as it allows you to blink in, lasso, and Force Staff out, which means you've pulled someone way out of position right there, meaning your team can get kills very easily. Other great items can be Lincoln's, or as it gives you extra stats in a spell block, like if they throw a stun at you or something while you're grabbing someone. You've then got something like Shiva's Guard, gives a lot more armor and slow, Boots of Travel for much faster move speed and utility, teleporting around the map so you can lasso people all over the place. Scythe of Vice, Hood of Defiance / Pipe of Insight, along with possibly a Rod of Atos, because the slow, health, and int is a great kind of thing for Batrider. Skills and playstyle wise, Batrider's a great ganker, and so you should really be leaving your lane a lot to get kills from about level 7. This is because you'll have your lasso then, and you can almost guarantee kills unless the enemy's got some sort of escape like a blink or something. Now up till that point, you're going to want to use Sticky Napalm roughly every 6 or 7 seconds in lane to try and keep up stacks on the enemy hero. You're going to want to also harass them as much as possible because you're building up stacks, doing extra damage, so you can really push them around more than they can push you around. The Napalm also makes last hitting easier, which, you know, that's a benefit all around because creep will take extra damage, so last hitting's a lot easier. Past level 6, if you're mid, try to control all the runes and everything. And, well, if you're top or hard lane, because top's not always hard lane, but if you're hard lane, you're going to want to be leaving your lane a lot once you've got lasso and everything. If you've got mana for lasso and it's off cooldown, as soon as a lane is out of position, start heading towards that lane. Let your team know you're going up there so they don't try and push back out, and then you should be able to guarantee a kill with lasso. Now, moving into teamfight stages, you want to be initiating by blinking in, lassoing someone, and Force Staffing / running out as quickly as possible. You want to pull them directly into your team, and you want to grab either the carry or a support with big AoE damage like Lich or Sand King, or, you know, someone that in a team fight can mess the whole team up. You're going to want to Firefly before you blink in. This is because if you Firefly in if you Firefly before you blink in, you can fly straight over impassable terrain to get out in weird escape routes and pull them back to your team. Which, you know, it's a lot easier just to Firefly first. It lasts a long time, so it's not going to make a difference to you. And it leaves a fire trail behind instantly, meaning people are going to take damage if they stand in it. Now, skills-wise, you usually want to go for Sticky Napalm at 1, 12, 13, and 14, with Flame Break at 3, 4, 6, and 8 to give huge sort of nuke and gank potential. Picking Firefly at 2, 5, 9, and 10 with your ult at 7, 11, and 16, and stats whenever you have to. This is a gank focused build, and you know, it gives you a huge potential to get kills, but it is very mana intensive, so you're going to want to conserve it, and it takes some skill to play well, but it can be the most rewarding build really, because it gives you so much more potential to kill. Now, I hope you guys found this guide useful in some way, and if you have, please remember to leave a comment, like, favorite, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And if you have any thoughts on the build or any